The main grammar point from here are some declensions. And the declensions, according to the case, the grammatical case, is normally a tricky topic because you don't get enough exposure to German. That's why I always recommend expose yourself to native content for German children and find the patterns yourself. You're going to notice that the brain is excellent at that, and you just need to give it that food, that food for thought and pattern finding. For example, here we are talking about a stubborn colleague. There's two ways to refer to this subject. We can say the stubborn colleague has ended the project or something of the sort, or a stubborn colleague is having an argument with somebody. So that's a subject, that's whoever is performing the action. So der sture Kollege, ein sturer Kollege. These nominative declensions and also for neutral words like das letzte Jahr oder ein neues Jahr, let's say. Why does it tend to be tricky? Because there's two ways of referring to them in the nominative. It could be the definite or the undefinite article, bestimmt oder unbestimmte Artikel. If you want to see that in more depth and do some exercises, that's how it's called. Bestimmt versus unbestimmter Artikel. Artikel. So bestimmte versus unbestimmte. And it was also a tricky point for me as I was learning. So I simply went the visual way. Just if you use R once, you no longer use it. So I used to make this mistake a lot. Der Sturer, mit R in both. Or ein Sturer oder ein Stur. So the general rule is if you used R once, just don't use it in the adjective. So that's the fastest way how I learned. That topic was very tricky for me. And the same happens with neutral words. So, das Letzte. So don't say das Letztes, very common mistake, one of my commonest mistakes also. And ein Neues. So don't say eines Neues. You can use eines if you're referring, for example, one of my meetings. You can say eines meiner Meetings. So one of my meetings is blah, blah, blah. Sometimes it's also eins meiner. So that's a way where you will see eines, one of my something, using genitive because it's belonging. But for nominative, when we describe something in this nominative case, we just want to keep it like this. Datives, for example, even in the dative form, there's more regular patterns. We could say, she speaks with the stubborn colleague. So we're going to add it like this. Mit dem Sturen, mit dem sturen Kollege, blah, blah, blah. If I want to say from the last year, let's say von dem letzten Jahr, vor dem letzten Jahr. So as you can see, this is for both neutral and masculine. So it's going to use dem and then en. So this is a pattern that you're going to find in datives. So I find this tricky, right? Because just look at this, there's no such regularity, right? Der Sture, ein Sture, das Letzte, ein. But here it's so regular, right? Mit dem Sturen, von dem Letzten, and so on. So this is going to be kept for all prepositions with dative, mit, zu, von, aus, bei, and so on. Nach. For neutral words, das Jahr, is going to be kept the same. Für das neue Jahr. Für das neue Jahr. If you want to see more detailed tables of this, like explanations, just look it in that way. Declensions for cases, right? In German, the grammatical cases are called either Kasus oder die Fälle. Literally the cases oder grammatische Fälle. And again, the best way to internalize them is identify the direct objects, and that way we work with accusatives. So what are the direct objects here? Das is a direct object because you can make it yourself. So, ich kann das Essen zum Beispiel vorbereiten. I can prepare the food. Vorbereiten. It's actually zubereiten, more specific. Let's use the word Gericht for dish. Ich kann ein gesundes Gericht bereiten. So I can cook a healthy dish. I can cook a healthy dish. And the declensions remain the same. Ne? So für das neue Jahr. Oder ich kann ein gesundes Gericht zubereiten. I can prepare a healthy dish. So ein gesundes. Das neue. So notice the pattern for accusative, again, and nominative, there's no change. What can be done with a plan? I have. So, ich habe einen guten Plan. Ich habe einen guten Plan. So when you see that the function is a direct object, that you do something with something else, and you see the double N, you know that this word is a masculine word. If you see this combination, das Neue, ein Neues, and so on, it's going to be a neutral word. And the easiest, and that's maybe why I haven't added it here, is, for example, die neue Kollegin. So if it's a colleague, female call, die neue, eine neue. So that's the easiest because you just double the I. Ne? So das ist eine neue Kollegin oder die letzte. So die letzte Konferenz zum Beispiel, the last conference oder so. Ne? So feminine words, it's very easy to know where they are, right? Because of the double I. But well, I hope this was useful, and the general tip for this is be exposed to as much German as possible, but native content for German children. Yes, you will have to leave out many things, you will not know 90% of what you see, but the 10 or 5%, it doesn't matter how much, that you can identify, because you will know the functions, you will have seen some verbs. The high frequency words is also an excellent way to start identifying all the high frequency words. If you go for listening rather than text for children like Geolino or WikiHow or Dein Spiegel, I mean, if you prefer to listen, make sure it's native content, even if it's very advanced. It doesn't matter, you're going to find the high frequency words all the time. You're going to listen, you're going to repeat them, you can do shadowing, you're going to absorb the sound patterns so you can internalize them. I mean, you need to be exposed to native speech, preferably interviews or podcasts where people are interacting. So it's very important also that monologue and, audiobooks and stuff, they have a very artificial sounding tone. It's monotone or it's it's not natural. So it's always good go for talk shows or interviews or podcasts where they are, they have guests and something and there's an interaction happening and you're going to notice all the high frequency words and they will become natural. Believe me, I'm doing the same in Polish, automatizing all the sound foundations of the language. In case of German, it's just 46 and you can do it in 3 weeks with proper training. So if you're interested in doing sounds first and then fine-tuning your ear and finding the high-frequency words and absorbing as much as possible, check the description in the bio, check also in the description in the video. But that's something I always recommend. Even if you don't understand 90 or 95% of the stuff, you're going to understand high-frequency words, main verbs. You're going to also see the modulations, the tones, the emotions that you will later imitate, that you will later emulate. So it's always good to have that as reference, so you sound natural. And you can also, most of the time, you can also even from the feelings that are portrayed in that you will know. You will have an idea of what they might be talking about. There's also many cognates, for example, from English. Many, any topic. It could be anything, but just try. Dare to go beyond the graded content and content that treats you like a robot or a child and go for the real deal. That's my main recommendation. That's why I recommend this. Go for the real deal because that's what you are aiming for. So program your brain for success right from scratch. It doesn't matter if you're just starting. You need all those inputs. Your brain is going to do the magic itself. It's The brain is a magician in pattern finding. So just give it the exposure it needs, and it's definitely better than seeing things in isolation or learning from few scattered translations to English. Find as many declensions as possible and try to guess the gender of the words that you see in those sites, those articles that I recommended, and tell me and say what is feminine, what is masculine, and what is neutral, and how you know. You're going to find them all the time. You're going to see, for example, ein langes meeting. So I need your help. You will know Hilfe is feminine because of the declension. So try to see them many times. Recognize functions, recognize what are subjects, what are direct objects, what are the verbs. That's something you can definitely do